All right, so good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start this morning. So first of all, thank you guys for coming in this morning for our first board performance planning meetings. So I'm going to open up the presentation just kind of doing a couple of reminders on why we started doing these and how they play into the overall informing of what's happening in the district. As I mentioned last time, our goal is to always keep you in the loop on what's happening in terms of our outcomes, assessments, and things like that, because you're going to hear a lot about the academic side of the house and how we're growing our leaders to support that work in our schools. But I want to kind of give you the context of why we're doing this. So today there's three things I want you to be able to walk out of when you finish with my particular section of the presentation. We're going to talk about the board monthly cadence. I'm going to just remind us of what we're doing every month and why we're doing it, what the performance planning meeting is about, and then of course, how does that tie into the strategic plan? So a lot of this is going to be repetitive. You're going to remember pieces of it, and I'm going to try to connect it a little more today. And so a lot of what we're doing is to just make sure that we honor the $96 million that we have in the budget. Whenever I go around and talk to people, whether it's principals or folks in the community, one of the major pieces of communication is that we understand that $96 million is a lot of money to be given to us. And so we want to make sure that we're spending it. And as I've always tried to do, try to make it really simple where the money specifically is going in terms of our 5 priorities. So you notice I'm using the word priorities now. We're moving away from goals to our priorities. So still keeping the number 5, so nobody has to learn a new number. It's just our 5 priorities in the school district. And they're pretty much the same. Student success, students, families, and community, operational excellence, employee and organizational improvement, and then of course our financial stewardship. So here's what we currently do right now in terms of what we're doing monthly. So every month we have our board workshop. So that's the week we had a couple weeks ago over at Burleson. Then we have our board one-on-one meetings. Those are the ones I've been having with all of you. I just finished those here this week with every single board member. And that is the actual follow-up to the workshop. Now here's where the performance planning meeting comes in. This is a little different. So the goal is to always have at least 3 of you attend. Can't do 4, of course, but 3 of you at a time, and then record the sessions so that we have them out there for board members to review. But here's where we're going to talk about things like how many kids are enrolled in early college high school, how many kids are in our GT programs. What does it take to help kids to successfully come through early college? Like, for example, you're going to hear about this later today, but we have to have teachers that have a master's degree in their certification area, or we have to have teachers that at least have an 18-hour concentration. Preferably, we want the master's degree, because if they have it, then they can teach the dual credit courses for us in our schools, as opposed to us having to get somebody else to do it. We don't have enough of those kinds of teachers, and so today what you're going to hear is some recommendations also on how we can support that work. Like, for example, we want to bring to the board in October or November a recommendation for a dual credit stipend for teachers that have either the master's or the 18-hour concentration, so they can teach the courses for our kids as opposed to getting the community colleges to do that. So you'll hear a little more from the academics team on that. And then of course we have our board meeting, which, for example, Tuesday we're going to have our board meeting. And so those are the 4 pieces of connection, or how we communicate with you guys as a board in terms of the workshop, the one-on-ones, to clarify the work at the workshop. This is its own piece now. This is actually what we're talking about, outcomes. Before you even have to ask for it, our goal now is to move forward monthly, every 2 months. So academics is here this month. Next month you're going to hear from the business side of things. You're going to hear where we are with things like the number of vehicles you guys approved. Where are we with that? Where's our inventory with technology? All the different projects that you've approved, what's the status on all those things? So that's where we're moving our meetings to. And then in, November, this team will be back. And we'll have new information. We'll have assessments, different things that we'll bring back to you. So we talked about a little bit about the school board workshop. We talked about our superintendent one-on-one meetings. Here's what you should expect to see today. I want to kind of break this down. So I talked to you about having these 2 parts of the house, right? So you have the part of the house, this is the group you see today that reports to the deputy. This is leadership, academics, innovation, safety and security, PEIMS or CCMR, and student information. That's PEIMS information. That's the group that reports directly to Mr. Chavez. The other side of the house is the operations side. And so that's Mr. Williams in operations, Mr. Trevino in HR and student support, the chief financial officer, and the technology officer. So when you see them, and if you notice the connection, every time you get a board update, you should see 2 parts of talking points. You get a talking point from Mr. Chavez's group, you get a talking point from Ms. Martinez's group. And why do I give you those? Because, as I've always said, when you're out in the community, if you're at HEB or you're at wherever, If somebody asks you, well, why do we approve this? All you got to do is pull your talking points out, and that gives you specifically what you're doing, especially around money, because people have a lot more interest on items that have money associated with them. So that's why we give you that information. So it makes it easier for you to be able to talk about it as a board member out of the community. So just to kind of clarify, here's our structure, because I know in the past we've talked about, well, how does the structure of the district work? Well, this is our structure. So that's me, obviously the board. I report to the board. And then, of course, we have the two ladies that work in this office. Mr. Chavez and Ms. Martinez report directly to me. And then we have our chief of staff and our marketing and communications director. That's the structure that reports directly to me. Here's the other structure. So now you have Mr. Chavez's group. It's Mr. Basurto, Dr. Matkins, Ms. Salinas, Ms. Basaldua, Mr. McElvain, and Chief Quiroga. That's that structure of the house. And then you have Ms. Martinez's structures. You have Elvis, Mr. Vino, Mr. Greathouse, and of course Ms. Bentley. Those are the two houses that you're going to continuously hear me refer to. This just makes it easier and cleaner for people to know who's doing what. And so this same presentation I've given to the principals, I'm going to share in other places, like with our Women with Vision, our faith-based community. I'm going to share this structure with everybody so people have a good understanding of how the district works. What you're going to expect to see at these meetings is you're going to hear information on everything from how are we doing with innovation, and we do that through System of Great Schools. If you remember June 2018, right before I came, the board voted on the district implementing the System of Great Schools plan. That's our theory of action that we follow. You're going to hear about attendance. Where are we with attendance? You're going to hear about that today. Where are we with the district improvement plan? On-ramps courses, those are the UT courses. That's another example of why we need teachers that have the master level degrees. How are we doing with PSAT, College Board, the associate's degree, and all the other things you see here? How are we measuring up? Because it's not just about students participating. We want them to excel through the program. And so we still have work to do. You're going to see it. The numbers are raw. We're giving you the raw numbers of where things are. So you're going to see gaps. And so, again, we're informing you, and at the same time going to ask for support on a few things that are coming up. And on the financial side, we're going to look at everything from staffing to how many kids are actually participating in our child nutrition program, our academic rating, which we've already reported to you. We've got a superior rating again now for the 5th year in a row. What's happening with SHAC? That's the new advisory group that I've told you each about. Our bus line, how are we doing there, and then inventory, marketing, and all those other things. So these are part of the things you're going to hear about from the other team when they come in next month. And so how does this connect to our strategic plan? So you've seen this. This is our North Star goal. The goal is always about making sure that all campuses are B or better by 2027, 2028. So we already hit our 4 for this year. That was this year's goal. We hit our 4. Next year we got to hit 6. That means the 4 that have it need to retain it, and we got to add 2 more schools. Of course we want more, but the goal is to have 2 more. And so this has been shared with principals. This is the expectation. That's why they're doing a lot of training with academics. In fact, today is a professional development day. We don't have students in the district. It's a learning day. But I feel like we're doing a much better job in terms of the leadership team, in terms of the goal of, one, not just teaching them about academics, but how do leaders support that work. And that's the work that both Dr. Matkins and Mr. Basulto are doing through their divisions. And then what does this all look like? So there's this SGS. That's what we use for innovation. You heard us talk about House Bill 3 goals. Those are things that are mandated to us that we have to include in our goals. These are the 2 local goals that you guys developed here recently and approved. And then those are those 5 priority goals that I always talk about. These are our 5 priority goals. And it all works in 2 areas: academics and our operations work plan. So these pieces, I'm hoping, are starting to get a whole lot clearer for you in terms of the work that we're doing in the school district. And so this is our overall strategy or the way we're going to attack the work. But these are real simple graphics that we're trying to use with our community so they can understand what we're doing. And then, of course, we're doing all this because we want to see more of this, obviously. These are the 4 schools that attained a B status this year. We want them to stay and retain. These are the schools that got distinctions also. So we have the Fine Arts, Gus Garcia, and you see the rest there. And then we also want to grow the ones that attained a C. These are all the schools that hit a C this year. And so some of them are close to getting a B, but not quite there. But we feel like there's already work that that's been done, especially with the high schools. There's three levels of not ratings, but three criteria that are used to attain their accountability rating. 40% of that criteria we believe we've already taken care of now. So they got to get the other 60%. But that's a great start for the high schools. And so, like, again, we don't really talk a whole lot about our C's, but we do need to acknowledge there was a lot of hard work for them to get get to this place. And then again, one more time, that's our cadence. That used to be the way we did things: workshop, 1-to-1, and then the regular meeting. So now we're workshop, 1-on-1, board performance meetings, that's what you're here for, and then the regular board meeting. And that's where we seek approval. So that, I hope, is a really short way of really just teaching you or having a conversation with you about these three things: the board monthly cadence, the performance planning meeting, and how does that tie into the strategic plan. And so when we're done today, you'll get this later in the board update, but we're going to keep revisiting this work over and over until it just becomes our culture and our norm. And so that closes my part, and I'm going to turn it over to the next group.
Good morning. This is going to be the part for the leadership board planning meeting, and we're going to look at our intended outcomes. So today, of course, we review our board strategic priorities, our goals, and then we're going to talk about attendance and enrollment. And Salinas will be doing that, leading that piece. We're talking about advanced academics. Dr. Mackins will lead us that piece. And then career and technical education review by Mr. Basuto. And then we'll talk about next steps after we come out of here. Of course, you just saw these two pieces. Here's a graphic that was developed. So we want to make sure that we show the two SGS and Lone Star governance. And then this particular piece has your systems of grade schools, North Star, and then the 3 Lone Star governance goals, which you're very familiar with. Going to our 6th year. And then the 2 locally developed goals that you all developed and voted for and approved. Again, the 5 priorities. Remember, think of these as areas that we focus on, right? And these are the priority areas that we focus on. So today we have this group here. We have Ms. Salinas today, Mr. Basuto, Dr. Mackins, and Chief Quiroga is kind of taking a hiatus. However, next month, the next month that we present is in November, he'll be joining us too. And Ms. Balzaldua, while not here, was very instrumental in getting a lot of materials and information for this, as well as Mr. McElvain. Okay, so before we present it, these are the areas, the very broad strokes that we'll cover. College readiness is included, student achievement, early college, high school, and PTEC, pathway to early college, high school, metrics. Other metrics include attendance, enrollment, things of that nature. And then finally, we'll be looking at the safety component where Chief Quiroga comes in. So what exactly are we going to see? So for attendance enrollment, they're going to talk about, for each one of these, you're going to hear terms. We know as you as board members, you get a 200-300 page board agenda and packet, and lots of terms, right? It's like kind of eating or drinking through a fire hose. So what we want to do for each of these areas is talk about terms and context to give you a context of what we're reviewing. We'll start off with attendance, where we'll do those pieces. Then we'll look at data trends and findings. Advanced academics, cover the terms, and then look at PTEC and early college, high school. What's the difference, right? Very similar, but they have some distinct differences. Pathways to early college, high school, also known as PTEC, early college, high school, ECHS, and advanced placement, and on-ramps offered by the University of Texas in Austin. Then we'll go on to the career and technical education, again, terms and context. We're going to look specifically at programs of study. These are programs of study that students need to kind of enter in their freshman year and then follow as they go through, right? But we know kids are kids, right? Even adults. Sometimes they choose a path and maybe the second year they may veer. So we try very hard to make sure that we get their interests and careers. And then we'll talk about endorsements and certifications and licensures that we as a district, Edgewood, offers. And then finally, what are the industry certifications that have been earned to date? And remember, most of these certifications are kind of like as they go up from freshman to senior year. So we will see that, and then at the end of this year, we'll see how many individuals actually garner that. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to hand it off to Ms. Salinas.
Good morning. Today I'm going to be showcasing some data around attendance and enrollment. And a huge thank you to Ms. Griselda Balzaldua, who does a fantastic job of ensuring there's data integrity around this, constantly checking systems, monitoring, communicating, and training our teams and our data clerks across the district. So a few attendance terms. You all are familiar with present and absent. You know, student shows up, they're physically present, they get counted present. If they don't show up to a particular class period or to school that day, then they are marked absent, right? So when it comes to attendance, their presence is extremely important. Why? Because the average daily attendance, the time they sit in the seat physically in the classroom, is that's where we kind of garner all of our funding. So that's the way school districts are funded. So at the end of the year, all of the attendance data is reconciled. They go and they clean up any attendance. A student maybe wasn't in second period but was at the front office, and all that gets communicated and cleaned up. And then from that, projected funds are allotted to campuses. So attendance snapshot. This is really the moment when the official attendance is taken. So if I'm a student and we take attendance at 10 a.m. every morning, that is what we call the official attendance record. That's how we generate our funding. So if a student misses but shows up third period, we don't get funded for that day. Compulsory attendance age. There is, law that students must be in school. So if a student is anywhere from 6 to 19, they must be enrolled in a public school. Days of instruction. These are the number of days with which we offer instruction, where students can actually come in, and this goes into a system, into the PEAM system, and it's calculated. The requirement around the number of days of instruction is contingent upon us meeting the 75,600 minute rule. So you see variations in days, and you guys have approved calendar, and one calendar might say 175 days, another one might say 180. All of those calendars that we brought to you for approval have met the 75,600 minute requirement. Enrollment or in enrollment, these are students that are actually receiving instruction. They enroll and then they show up to school. Original entry date, the minute a student steps into a school for the first time, that is their original entry date. We take students even now, we have students registering, right? And so that's the original entry date, the withdrawal date, the date with which they actually do not come back to school, physically withdraw, and then go enter another public school system. So a little bit on enrollment context. Over the years, we've seen declining enrollment. This really is attributed to several kind of big major factors. One is the national decrease in birth rates. There has been significant decrease in birth rates nationally. You can see there how the birth rates have really shifted the number of students that are entering our schools. The number of kids that families are having, right, have changed as well, which create a decrease in enrollment. Housing expansion capacity, being landlocked sometimes, no more place to build homes, also creates some decrease in enrollment. Growth of charter schools. There has been, over the last couple of years, a significant amount of charter schools. I do want to note here that these charter schools are not just, charter schools like KIPP and IDEA and Jubilee and Compass Rose and all of those schools. These are also charter schools that have been authorized as in-district schools, much like the ones that you all have authorized, which create choice and options, right? Open enrollment policies have also impacted. So this whole movement to choice, which is a great thing for kids, is also happening across the city. And so what we're finding is there used to be policies that said if you want to transfer from school A to school B, it has to be within your attendance boundaries, right? So attendance boundaries dictated which school you would be able to attend. With open enrollment policies now, we accept schools all over Bexar County. We'll take a student from Seguin if the parent can get their kid here, right? And so this has shifted the dynamics of enrollment across the city.
It's every district.
Yes, every district has been impacted.
Are a lot of them open?
A lot of them are open, yes, especially the ones that have specialty schools. Even if they don't have operating partners, they're still open enrollment policies.
If you look at the majority of the districts, over 1,000 districts, most of those are still closed boundaries.
So what does enrollment data look like? So here we just kind of given you a snapshot of 3 very key dates. One being the first Friday, right, when we first started school. You can see there that we started with 6,884 students, and of those 6,884 students, 84.05 were in attendance that week. Okay, remember we talked about ADA and funding. Then this is the next 3 weeks, right? And so we did it based on first week, third week, 6 weeks of school. You have 8,108 students at 85.67% attendance. And then yesterday, we had a total of 8,114 students enrolled in our district, and our attendance improved to 87.93%. And just a little bit about, so we talked about the number of students that are in our schools. So what type of students are in our school? This is some demographic data. Demographic data is extremely important because there are different weights and funds that the district is able to get for students to be able to provide special programming. So you see here our female male. We have about the same number of females and males in our school district. You see we are majority Hispanic, Latino, and we do have some other races here in our district as well, still predominantly a Hispanic Latino district.
What's
Yes, sir.
2 or more?
2 or more means they might have identified white father, Native American mother, that kind of thing.
Can we, on board of it, can we get that graphic there?
Yes, sir, we'll put this in there first.
Yes. We'll send the entire first.
And then this is also student program data. So there's the demographic, and then these are the types of students that are enrolled in different kinds of programs. I do want to note that this is preliminary fall PEIMS data, and so we're always working to ensure data integrity, and so I just want to let you know that the next time you see this, these numbers might be a little bit different, and that's because we've done our job, identified students, enrolled them in programs, and cleaned up our data. And so you see here we have dyslexia, 411 students participating in that program. Yes, sir.
I'm curious, you showed us that chart on the birth rates.
Mhm.
How does that relate to our demographic? Our kids, the makeup of our kids. Is that similar to that chart? Or this is taken in just, kids, all kids?
Okay, so the national birth rates that I shared with you, those are nationally. I have some birth rates that I can share with you that are from Texas, that are from Bexar County. In terms of the make, I don't have like a breakdown that would say, like on demographics, like we've seen 60% decrease in Hispanic families having children. That's kind of what you're talking about, or
Just to see if that's relevant to us.
We can actually get census data based by zip code for our zip codes that we have here, and that'll be accurate to the last census data, which is 2020. They also have a check every couple of years, so we can look at our zip codes and give you a more accurate account of what exactly that birth rate is for us.
Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where in the student program, where would Burleson fall under?
I don't see them in this particular one. They may fall in to this one right here.
Special ed? Special ed.
Okay. So I'll let you, I won't read all this. I'll give you a minute to kind of look at that. You can see here we've been working on our gifted and talented, enhancing our processes to ensure that we're properly identifying students potentially for that program. Mr. Basuto and our advanced academics director have done a really good job of creating family nights around this, ceremonies around this as well.
We're also in the process of getting our third-party vendors implemented into our front line. You can see special ed, 0.72, passed within around 12%. So it's a matter of importing that. This data is coming straight from frontline, and next time we can go ahead and combine those two. But by November, our thoughts are it's just around the corner of us getting the integration of what's called V3, is the special ed, that used to be called eSped, and that data will be coming in. So you'll see a huge difference because that 0.72 was just the ones that we recently entered.
And so you can see,
Good question.
yeah,
Good catch.
we do have a lot of students participating in our bilingual programs, emergent bilingual program as well. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Kimberly Gilmore-Matkins, who's going to talk about advanced academics.
Good morning again. I do want to thank Mr. Rodriguez for providing the information in this presentation, as well as Ms. Bazaldua was able to assist with this as well. And so I'm going to talk about advanced academic data with our various programs here in the district that support our number one outcome, which is to graduate students college, career, and military ready by their expected date of graduation. Just to provide some context as well, here are some terms that I'm going to use, and you've probably heard these before in various presentations, but we offer advanced placement courses. So advanced placement courses are college level courses where students can earn college credit at the end of the year if they pass the advanced placement test, okay? The dual credit courses are courses that are blended with high school and college. So just dual. Those are the both for dual credit courses. And then with dual credit courses, we have programs like early college high school, in which students are able to receive college credit. If they stay and receive 60 credit hours, they'll end up with their associate's degree by the time that they finish high school. If not, you don't have to necessarily be in early college high school in order to take a dual credit course. Another program that we offer our students college credit is our P-TECH programs, and we have P-TECH programs at JFK and at Memorial, and they're fairly new. This is also an opportunity for students to receive an associate's degree. I'll talk about this more in a few minutes, but the difference between early college high school and P-TECH is that when students finish P-TECH, they'll have a certification at the end, and they can go directly into a workforce. And then we have ONRAPS, which is specifically a program offered by UT, another dual credit program in which students are able to engage in authentic college work. The majority of that programming is online, and the courses are facilitated by professors at UT. So what's the difference between P-TECH and ECHS? Really, there's one difference, and that is you'll have a certification at the end of the program with P-TECH. ECH programs, courses don't necessarily have to offer a certification at the end. I'd like to also share our numbers of students enrolled in both programs. We have 51 students that are in our P-TECH program right now, which is new, and then we have 283 students in our early college program, which has been around for a while. So to go just a little bit deeper, these are the courses that we offer for P-TECH. JFK started P-TECH last year, in which they offered cybersecurity and computer science. This year they've added aviation. The numbers here represent the number of students that are enrolled in the program. So we have 25 students at JFK. In 9th grade, and then in 10th grade, we have 13 students enrolled in the program. We did not have students to sign up for our aviation coursework. And then at Memorial, this is Memorial's first year to offer P-TECH in culinary arts and in teaching and learning, and right now they have 13 students enrolled in the program. Obviously, this is not where we want to be. So an area of refinement that Mr. Rodriguez and academics and school leadership are working on is to provide systems of recruitment, parent information, making sure that our middle schools have a true understanding of what these programs are and what they have to offer, so that we can publicize these programs and get students in the program. They're all open enrollment, so it's not like a qualifier that you'll need in order to take P-TECH or at either school, or even with our early college high school courses. So we do offer early college high school at both JFK and Memorial. 155 students here at JFK, and then 128. You'll notice, at graduation, we always announce students who are graduating with their associate's degree at the end of the year. Again, our numbers are small. They're not where we want to be, but just over time and with the transitions that have occurred in building these programs, we need to get more kids here. We need to have more offerings here because we know that if a student can take 2 or more dual credit courses, they're most likely to go to a 4-year institution and be successful. One thing that I believe Mr. Chavez or Dr. Hernandez mentioned is that a refinement for these areas too is that we need to increase the number of EISD staff that are qualified to teach these courses. Right now we have 10 out of 15 of our employees that are eligible to teach the courses for our kiddos, and so we want to increase that number. Yes.
When you say certified or teaching courses, that means that our student doesn't have to go to Palo Alto? No?
No.
So when we say that, if we have a teacher from Palo Alto who's teaching the course, they can either come to the campus, they can do it virtual, or students go over, right? Our goal is to have students go over, but they have several different programs. A bridging program that they have during the summer. Well, I don't want to use the word bridge, but they have summer programs that they can offer now for students where they can go over to the university. The more that we have our staff teaching this course, it's a lot better. One, Palo Alto is open 2 days a week, 4 days a week, which means that they go twice a week. So they're off 3 days, so to speak. If we had our teachers would be with that student 5 days a week, after school, before school, weekends, because that's what our teachers do. The other thing is that if they have our teachers teaching, they understand that age group. And so when you have a Palo Alto teacher, a professor, it may be a type of professor that says, hey, look, this is college level. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you have football, so we can make amends that way. The other thing is it's also a savings for us because we have to pay for that teacher every semester. If we flip that model, then our teachers can, if we have the correct enrollment, can get $600 per semester, which the district receives, but we funnel that funding directly to the teacher. So if I teach 3 courses or 1 course, that's $1,200 a year. If I teach 3 courses, I get $3,600. So now we flipped it from paying Palo Alto to having our teachers do that and have them receive the money. Now, the other thing is that those individuals, they enroll in the university in Palo Alto. They are part of Alamo Colleges. So they have to go through that whole process of applying. They got to go select their courses, which is information that our students, if they were just graduated and they go into the college system, a lot of times they get lost in the shuffle. So now, as they're going into through our high school, they're able to navigate the system. And I think that was one of the things that you all talked about, the board, in terms of our college and career readiness. How do we know that they can navigate the system? Well, they're already navigating the system starting as early as perhaps a freshman year. And we always have trainings for those individuals and parents. So I kind of took a long time to explain that.
No.
But it's very important that we move in the direction of having our teachers teach those courses. And that requires them to have a master's or the 18 hours in the area.
Right. The other factor you want to consider too, board members, is that if you have a teacher that's on campus, you can build longevity in the program. Because if Ms. Salinas is the AP or the calculus teacher teaching dual credit, everyone's going to know it. She can go recruit kids from when they're in 9th grade. Now you have stability. And if there's one thing kids need that are taking dual credit courses, is some level of stability in the person that's actually teaching the course. So this is why, as I mentioned earlier, next month we're going to bring a recommendation that we actually create a dual credit stipend, and then we do one that can attract people from other districts that already have it, because we don't have enough teachers. And so we're going to bring that recommendation to you, but we wanted for you to see the connection. Where does it land in real time? Not just we need this stipend and then you don't quite get where it's going. It affects these numbers specifically.
And once they get indoors, that teacher may be teaching 2 or 3 courses. Guess what? In Dr. Hernandez's example, that 9th grade class, they have a professor teaching them 9th grade and 10th grade. They have an adjunct professor from the Alamo College system teaching them biology or their first year in English or things of that nature.
Sorry.
So, by the explanation y'all just gave me, it's only, it's a win-win situation for us.
Yes.
You know, I just, by listening to that, how can we move wrong? Okay.
Yes, and so to that point, you can see how our numbers decrease. So even though our ninth grade numbers are not necessarily high, but you can see from when they go to 10th grade, the numbers decrease. The junior year, they kind of rise just a little bit, but then the senior year, it's still down. So the number of students that enter in early college, high school, or taking dual credit courses, we want that number to stay the same or increase by the time students get to 12th grade.
You mentioned that we're not where we want to be.
Yes.
When you're doing the assessment, are there dollars, you know, you look at dollars to see what the investment is and you know, is that part of the assessment that we're not where we want to be? Is how much are we putting in, how much are we getting back out in terms of, you know, how kids are advancing and where is, you know, where does it make sense or you know, are we winning or, you know what I'm saying? Is that part of the assessment?
Well,
Investment of monies?
yes, it is. And I'll let him, I'll share something and then, but I'll let him go first.
You all received a report for our early college high school that says how many kids, how much the investment returned. So all these courses that the students are taking are free to them. We don't pay for them unless they have a professor that we have to pay for. But I think it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we save, our students save, parents save in doing this program. So the fact that it doesn't cost the students, they don't have to pay for tuition, and they're already enrolled, they can use a library, they can go use the swimming pool at Palo Alto.
Or
Because they are students.
Or
Yeah,
textbooks.
textbooks.
That's textbooks, yeah.
So that's part of the selling to the
Yes.
families,
Yes.
to the kids?
Yes, it's a huge,
So that number can go up?
Yes.
yes, that's a huge
Yes.
selling point, and parents will save a lot of money because students with these programs, again, they can go to a four-year institution and not necessarily have to pay for coursework for the freshman year or the sophomore year. Some students can even start college as a junior. So that's a huge cost saving.
If I may add, let's keep the numbers in perspective. Our high schools range at about 1,000 kids. There's only so much programming and choices you can offer before you run out of kids, right? You only have so many kids to work with, right? So when you look at the total enrollment, think of it in terms of what is the percentage of that enrollment relative to the overall school enrollment. So for example, when I was at Iseta, I had schools of 2,000. So our goal was to have 400 kids, because roughly that translated to a percentage of 400 out of the 2,000 kids, because other kids have other interests like the AP track, they do the CTE track, they do other things, right? So when we look at that number of 128 and 155, think of it in terms of what is our target number long-term? Because you're not gonna have 500 kids. That's just not realistic, because then you kill all your other programs. Remember, because you still got band, you got all these other things going on, and you got CTE pathways, which I'll show you in a bit. At some point, you run out of room for all these things, right? And so just keep that in mind as you're looking at those numbers long-term. Always compare it to, well, how many total kids are in that school? Right?
Does it make sense to be able to track where all the kids are? You know,
Yes.
just numbers?
That's what this is.
Mhm.
You know, and because you're talking about, you know, there's other places, so you can, you know, it's easier to identify that, you know, we've got a lot of our kids that are engaged
Right.
on a path to
Right.
success, where somebody might look at this and say, well, that doesn't look so promising,
And
but yet.
It's all relative to the percentage of the school,
Right.
right? Yeah.
And board members, one last connection, because I know you've heard this before. So you've heard about the Alamo Promise. You know how we do the big deal, sign up for the Alamo Promise? That's what this connection is to. The city, the community college district and the school districts got together, and now you have the Alamo Promise. So that's how we're able to afford this also to the kids. We now have fine arts, our high school, in one of the schools. It used to be just our two schools here, but now they actually just had their
signing
Save Your
day.
Seat, the signing day that was this week. And so any of our students there can sign up for the Alamo Promise too. And so they can start their courses at the high school, or they can wait till they get out. It just kind of depends on what the student.
You mentioned that, you know, we could use, you know, more qualified
Yes.
teachers so that we could take
Yes.
care of this in-house.
Mhm.
those teachers that are teaching at the college level, a lot of them are just part-time there, because that's all that's offered.
Right.
We couldn't reach out, not necessarily at those particular schools, but others, and pull those people in and have them work part-time here, part-time over there. And
You could, it's just, I think, I'll go back to Mr. Chavez's point. I think if you have a teacher that's there all the time and the kids get to know her, our neighborhoods are filled with families who, everybody can track back to, I took Miss such and such. Everybody had that English teacher, everybody had that math teacher. Same thing, if you have a set group of teachers that teach in your dual credit program and they're there for a while, it helps kids. First thing is kids are just afraid to do it. But if they know the teacher and they have a relationship with her, or they recognize, okay, well, I'll try it out. And the second thing is, if that's a high school teacher, they also understand that even though it's a community college course, the kids are still young. They're going to need other levels of support that are more emotional, understanding, because every kid's going to run into a problem. So we're shooting more for having our own staff do it, and it keeps also our rates of not a retention up if we do that for this particular.
So if you look at over time, those numbers, look at 9th grade and look at 12th grade. These are individuals in 12th grade who are scheduled on track to get their 60 hours and their associate's degree. Those individuals that aren't making it, they're still gaining dual credit. If I get 36 hours of dual credit, that's a big savings. So this shows individuals getting the associates. What's needed to keep those numbers constant is support. Support for those, because these are teenagers taking college level courses, okay? So as you mentioned, a lot of support emotionally, a lot of support academically, and if you have a teacher who's there constantly and you see them 5 days a week as opposed to, I'm gonna go see this person for an hour and a half, twice a week, it's difficult. So our goal is really to maintain those numbers throughout. And also, if you look at those numbers, and according to Mr. Basuto, right, that was 1 in 5 or 20%. That's sitting above 12% or so. So we have a little bit of growth, but we'll also share, Mr. Basuto will share the CTE numbers for the program study, and Dr. Mackins is also going to share 2 more areas, advanced placement and on-ramps.
On-ramps, yes.
May I?
Sure.
I had a question about the last year in a few minutes, but and I put 2 and 2 together. This past summer, and I shared it with Dr. Age, I think it's 4 students that graduated and got their early college credit that went to universities.
Oh yeah.
I had 2 parents come to me and they were upset because when they got to the university, they found out that the university is not accepting the credits that they got at Palo Alto, and my grandson was one of them. So my grandson won't know till October if he's going to be a freshman, sophomore, whatever the case may be. But one of the parents says, why did my daughter go through all that and none of it being used?
We had that question, and what I mentioned to him was that some of the colleges, the universities do have that right. They don't always accept everything. For the most part now, I think both the higher ed and us, we do a better job of making sure that whatever courses are taking at the schools are accepted in most of the state schools. Your grandson is at UT, so I'm pretty sure they're evaluating it right now, but there's much better understanding. Those are honestly anomalies, because most of the courses do count. I mean, you were over in El Paso, everybody here has been in different districts. For the most part, they're accepted. The other thing you have to consider is what plan of study is he going into.
But what I'm getting at, Dr. is that, and it makes sense to me, maybe. So, a professor, say you're a professor, and you're Palo Alto, you don't know that student. You're not going to tell them, hey, well, you might not want to do that, you might want to do this. But if we get a teacher that's certified here, I think that our students will get a more personal type deal.
Yes.
And they would actually know the student and say, you know what, you may want to consider doing this instead of that. It's a more personal feeling with the student versus if they go to Palo Alto, not that they don't care, it's just that they have so many. And so I think that Google was to do that and eliminate those problems.
Yes.
So to be an early college high school designation,
there's a whole blueprint that you have to follow. And one of those things is that we have to assign an administrator and a counselor to those individuals who are in constant contact with the post-secondary institution in Alamo campus. And when we have that type of setup working, and we have a student who's here, you can kind of have that conversation, it's greater support. That's why the key is getting those individuals to come in, and we can have them internally. That's why we're looking to build that.
I really, if we can eliminate all that and have the parents think that we're just doing it, just throw them out there. And that's one of the things they told me, all you're doing is just throw my kid out there. I said, no, that's not the case. But if we can do that,
Yeah.
oh my God, that'd be great.
And what Alamo College has done, in many of the two-year institutions, they start aligning because they know that certain universities have rather persnickety about, well, if you go in the engineering program, you're going to have to take these over again. You know, they just have their nuances. And so they're setting up systems. They have set up systems where they can go in, and you're going to this university, the UT system, A&M system, other colleges around the state colleges. Then they know what areas they need to focus on, what's acceptable.
Okay, let's
Thank
go
you.
You're welcome.
to our dual enrollment
What's advanced courses?
for advanced courses. You can see our numbers here that total 205 students. We have 12 course offerings for dual credit at JFK and 16 at Memorial High School. And Mr. Gomez, going back to your comment, we agree wholeheartedly about it's really important for us to have our staff members teaching our kids, because another main point for students to be enrolled in these courses is also to teach them grit, you know, and build that bridge between I'm in high school, but I'm getting ready to take this huge jump. And so it's completely, the job or the understanding of a student is completely different. And so if we have people that are in district, it's also going to help make sure that they just don't fall through the cracks here. So we have 2 students here. I believe this gentleman, I can't remember his name. I believe he's a student council president though here at Memorial, who's actually a dual credit student, as well as the young lady here at JFK. Now let's look at our AP. AP are advanced placement courses in which a student will take the course. It's a college level course, but in order for them to get the credit, they have to pass the AP test at the end of the year. And so we have a total of 31 course offerings for our advanced placement courses, and we have a total of 698 students who are participating in these courses as well. And again, it's a blend of high school and college coursework here. Our UT on-ramps, which is dual credit courses specifically at UT, provided by UT. We have a total of 145 students in the program. Again, we want to provide opportunities for students to go ahead and matriculate to a 4-year institution. And so these are the numbers that we have here, and we have 6 offerings for our on-ramps courses, 2 at JFK and then 4 at Memorial High School.
And you may think, just after our conversation about dual credit, well, you're doing Alamo College and now you're UT Austin. What happens is during the summer, our teachers will teach this course. During the summer, they will go for 2 weeks and be trained by that department. It's chemistry, history, mathematics, trained by that department, by that designated professor who will work with that teacher to teach the course. So it is our teachers teaching the course, and they get trained by UT. So then they get UT transcript, right? So it's a University of Texas in Austin transcript where they get to do it.
And also keep in mind, these are not our early college kids. Because a lot of the courses that are offered are almost are the same as the dual credit. The only difference is that one is taken through UT, the other one's through our community college.
So going back to Mr. Basuto's statement, can you go back one slide? Go back. Look at that district total for advanced placement, 698. That's a huge number, right? So if we go down, go back to the on-ramps, we have 145. So looking at these things, we're going to look at what's the return on investment, right? In terms of student achievement, right?
We'll notice that some of our AP scores that you've seen through the years in our table report are not as high as we'd like to get, right? So we're going to be evaluating all these courses by what percentage of that 145 passed and received a credit, what percentage of our dual credit enrolled and received, what percentage of our AP students received a 3 or better, because it's a 3 or better that you can have for the course. So we're looking at those
If
things.
you will know this answer, but why do we have 10 at 12th grade, 10 at Memorial and 0 at Kennedy?
That is a very good question. I would have to research that. I'm not sure, Mr. Barsuto. I
Well,
don't know if you know.
We'll go back to the, I don't know, but we can guess. Let's see, AP enrollment. No, I'd have to look at it. from
Yeah,
those
and just like
standpoints.
in fine arts, in 10th grade, I noticed this when I was looking at the data, how we don't have any students enrolled in our AP courses in fine arts.
Well, fine arts is so
that's a
small,
question.
but it's almost like.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But just a question that I had as well. So as I finish up this part, just keeping in mind overall, these are just opportunities for students for us to close the opportunity gap and provide equal access so that our students can receive a high-level education, and so that when they graduate high school, then we have supported them to be successful in post-secondary work. So students have options to take early college, high school, on-ramps, and what did I miss? And P-TECH. So all of those provide a pathway for post-secondary work that also, sets our students up for success, as well as provides families an opportunity to save money. And so these are really big selling points, because we want to make sure that our kids and our community have the tools necessary so that they can be successful and have a true impact on our community as well.
I like that P-TECH, that aviation.
Mm-hmm.
My brother-in-law, Frederick Mesa, he went in the Navy, became an aircraft mechanic, worked for Boeing. Now he just retired from Boeing, $72.50 an hour.
That's good.
These kids need to know that. So now my brother-in-law retired, making tons of money, just retired. But because of the technology,
Mm-hmm.
so the kids knew that, how much money they can make. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they get the opportunity in high school now. So,
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Wow.
Okay.
And so Mr. Barsuto will elaborate a little bit more on those certifications that I mentioned that come along with the P-TECH program, and additional CTE courses.
So Career Tech, it's such a complex but a very powerful programs for our kids. Just real quickly, just kind of going over some terms, okay? Because you're going to hear a lot of this, so I want to make sure I clarify. You're going to hear a lot about endorsements. And what that is, the TA recognizes that there's certain programs of study that upon completion, it's going to be marked under transfer, okay? So those are some endorsements, and there's 5 in particular, with various programs of studies within those endorsements. Program of study, and I'll give you an example, the easiest way to kind of put your mind on what that means is like cosmetology. Cosmetology is a program of study. Now, that's just one example of very many examples that I'm going to share with you, okay? So that's what, when you think about a program of study, that's what that is. It's a coordinated, non-duplicated sequence of courses in a specific field, so, such as cosmetology or welding, or that's a program of study. A pathway is courses in alignment, okay? And typically it's always 4. That's a pathway. When you hear the word coherent, that means that it's going to start from freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, and you're just not dropping different courses. It's got to be very sequential. I first have to take my freshman level course, then it jumps into my sophomore level course, to my junior, and then ultimately to my senior level course. You just can't just be throwing courses in there. It's coherent. It's got to make from beginning to end. Make sense? So when you start hearing endorsements, programs, pathways, and coherence, basically focused area in order. That eventually leads to a certification and field experience. And I'm going to kind of go over some. Ultimately, as you know, industry certifications. And when we talk about industry certifications, they're recognized through TEA, and they're also recognized through our industry. Okay, so those are what the industry accepts, so the kid can walk in and say, hey, I got this certification, and they can just go straight into the workforce. Okay? Practicum, you're going to hear, and it's typically your senior level course in most of, not all, but in some of our CTE programs,
By the time they get to their senior level course, the practicum is where they go on the field. That's when I've been learning about this particular field. Now I get to go work at the site. So my class is being there, and that's where I get on the field experience. That's when you hear practicum. And these are typically 2 to 3 hours long. It depends. Okay? All right. Let's put CTE in context. One of the things that we have to kind of wrap our mind around with CTE is understanding that we always have to be on the cutting edge. You're thinking, well, what does that mean? That means this is a year-to-year proposition where you're continually monitoring, assessing, and looking at all your programs. It's not just, you just set it and forget it. No, you have to go back and review your programs every year. Why? Because the labor market changes. And so what you're always continually doing is you're always looking at the changes in industry. And so you're always going back to your partners and saying, is this what welders need to have? Is there anything coming in the pipeline that we need to be made aware of? What are the hot trends in the job market? And you have to be thinking in terms of 10 years plus. Because keep in mind, remember I mentioned about the program of study? It's 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're not thinking 10 years ahead, you might be leading kids into a pathway and into a certification where the job's not going to be there in 10 years. So you're always monitoring this, always having discussions with our partners, business industry members, and you're always looking at the job market analysis. What does the trends look like? What does the job market look like in the next 10 years? And we have those discussions. And then you're also looking at the enrollment shifts. Where the kids come and go. I know COVID did a number on us. I know we don't want to talk about it, but that's the reality of it. It just changes the enrollment numbers within your pathways. Because I'm going to show you some gaps where some of these issues may have attributed. And it just depends, right? The other thing is student interest. If kids have no interest in it, then you're going to have a hard time getting kids to come and participate in this pathway. So another thing you have to consider. Program launch dates. When you think about that is, remember, think in terms of long term. When you set up a program, by the time you even see the first class complete your sequence, you're talking 4 years. And in some cases, think about it in terms of 5. Because in year 1, you go recruit your kids. By the time they start their freshman year, that's 2 years. Their sophomore year, that's 3. Junior year, that's 4. Your senior year is 5. You're looking at 5 years. So you have to be mindful of when you're launching things and have the foresight to know, okay, in 4 or 5 years, this is where my first cohort's really going to complete that program of study. Okay, so be mindful of that. And of course, this is the big elephant in the room, teacher attrition. A lot of our specialized courses require, so for example, a welder. They have to have welding experience. Well, those don't just fall out of the trees. Those are very hard to grab and hold. And sometimes when the teacher leaves, it really hurts the program because we don't have a lot of welders out there. And so that's always been a point that you always have to consider. Okay? So now let's look at the programs of study. You'll notice at John F. Kennedy, we're offering program of studies animation. And the way you read this is the animation. Remember I told you about the pathway and the coherent sequence. You're going to start off with the freshman, sophomore level courses, junior, and then the practicum at the senior level course. So when you read it, you think of terms of freshmen, working your way down to seniors. Okay? We also have automotive technology. There's your 4 courses lined up. AV production. I want you to notice low numbers here, no numbers here. Reason being is because some of these kiddos that are enrolled over here can go into this pathway here. The intro level course could be the same and then it branches off. Okay?
You said they can go?
They can. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I could have dropped these numbers in here, but I don't want you to think that's 93, 93. So basically, some of these kiddos that are enrolled in this introductory course level will eventually matriculate down. So what does this tell us? Obviously, we had this program took a hit during COVID. And so we got to go back and recuperate it and get it back. And there is interest here, obviously, because there's 93 kids that want to go there. So eventually these numbers are going to be padded up again as the kids move up. Yes, sir.
Is the program strong enough to be able to recruit some of the graduating kids to actually participate in teaching other kids?
Sorry, repeat that?
If you have a graduating student that's gone through the program, is the program strong enough in terms of getting the kids ready to do, what they've been working on and come back and teach?
Well, so there's the education piece. and I'll show you that over, where is it? It's in the next slide, I'll show it to you. But in this one in particular, so remember, for you to teach this course, you still gotta go through and get your teaching, you gotta finish your 4-year term, right? And that's even if you wanna go into the teaching field, correct? I will show you the education-based one, where we are doing exactly what you just described there, where we're getting their aid certification, which eventually we will bring those kids back. We got 19-year-olds, I believe we have 5 or 6 of them that came back that graduated last year that are now our aides, because they've got hours. And the goal there is, once they graduate, they'll become our teachers. Maybe not necessarily in this particular pathway though.
Right.
Make sense? Yes. Okay. Criminal justice, and I'm gonna show you that last year's senior class, really well. We graduated a lot of kids that certified in this particular area with the certification that goes with that one. Notice the numbers though. So some of these numbers are gonna drop here, healthy numbers. Remember I told you that there's only so many pathways you can offer because there's only so many kids, right? But the numbers look pretty healthy. Got business management, all the courses, you'll notice the 0. Why do you suppose that is? Remember I told you about the long range plan? This is a brand new program. It's been in existence for 3 years, so now it's going to enter year 4 next year. And so now we have a healthy group coming up. The numbers are coming in, they're going to be trickling down. So year to year, you'll notice you keep recruiting and enrolling. Those numbers then go to sophomores, juniors. So this is basically on year 3. Next year will be year 4. And so these numbers will come down, and then you'll bring a new group, and that's how you build a pathway. That's how you build a program. Okay? Same thing here. Fairly new program. We were able to find some kids middle of their career and recruit them in. But see how healthy that freshman group looks now? And so the idea is now that those 39 kids will come down, you bring another group of 39 to 40, and then you build it, and this number will become really healthy over time. This is a fairly new program. And this is the one where I was telling you, sir, that we have about 5 or 6 kids who graduated last year. Now these are current students now, but from last year who are now aides in the district. They were able to get their certification, they got some hours, and now they're working with us. And the idea is once they complete their bachelor's degree, become fully certified teachers, they'll remain with us.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the percentage, say, just pick culinary arts? Like, students that start at the freshman level, and by the time they got to the senior, or how many students did we started a freshman with 75?
How many finished at the end?
How many finished at the end? What's the percentage?
Okay, we'd have to look at it. So for example, because this is a senior level course, we'd have to see how many were in that cohort when they were freshmen. We have to go back 3 or 4 years. So we could probably look at that and see if we can find something for you. Because this is current numbers as of today, right?
Yes, I understand.
Yes.
But, so we can retain them, or, are we making it to where they don't look interest? A lot of kids now, they're thinking of one thing, but they're thinking like 20 more things over on this other side.
Exactly. Or it also could be that they get into it and they thought they were gonna like it, and they realize, you know what, this is not for me, and that's okay. Because I'd rather them figure it out in high school and get out of it before they go to college and then invest all that time and money and then get into the field and realize that they don't like it.
Very true.
Right. So there's but
There's a huge percentage of that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to, if I may, that's part of that process year to year. Remember I told you, you always have to be proactive and you're looking at it, it's a year-to-year proposition. All those factors come into play when you review these programs. To your point, well, are kids even, is there student interest? Are we even retaining the kids? I mean, what's the issue there, if at all? All those factors are reviewed year to year. It's not just like you just set up the program and forget about it. Every year you have to go back and you have to make sure you look at the industry standards. So what do the trends look like? Student interest, like you said, whether or not we're losing them for some reason, or teacher attrition. It could have been that we lost a teacher that one year that kids loved, and the moment that teacher left, there was a sub and we couldn't find a replacement, and guess what happens? Kids start dropping out because you're like, oh, the teacher is a sub, and so then they go find another pathway.
That has a lot to do with it.
Yes, sir. So different factors.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So here's culinary arts, education and training, health science, hospitality and tourism. You notice at the large number now. So they're doing a good job of getting those kids in there. So now let's start building that program back up. You always have to think in 4 years, right? Because a lot happened in the past 4 years. And so that could have affected a lot of these courses.
Those are the kids that know they're not leaving San Antonio.
Let's look at the programs of study: cosmetology, engineering, welding, more of the technical. This one in particular, we're exploring the idea of providing dual credit. And it's being offered here in the San Antonio area. It's the first of its kind in the state, and we're going to really explore that. So these courses will eventually turn into dual credit courses. So not only do they get a certification, but they'll have some dual credit that they can use and apply. Now, let's look at certifications. Each of those pathways has the opportunity and the ability for a child to obtain a certification. Now, keep in mind that some of these certifications cannot be taken until they're 18 years of age. Cosmetology is one of those. Although we may have cosmetology numbers, they are not able to challenge for the certification until they turn 18. And in some cases, some of our kids turn 18 in the summer after they graduate. So then we are trying to find them. Hey, let's go challenge a test. Once they get their license, then they can go and practice, right? Some, after their sophomore year, they can challenge tests. It just depends on which one, because they have to go through the course before they can go challenge. So you're going to notice right now in the totals, almost 0 kids as freshmen have certifications. Why? Well, they're just burning in the program. They first have to learn, train, and study. Then eventually some of those certifications are offered in the junior, senior level course. That's why you'll always see very, very little certifications at the beginning, and then towards the end, especially by the end of the senior year, the certifications will skyrocket because, like, for example, the law enforcement one, they can't challenge it until their senior year after they complete the 4 courses. So law enforcement will always show 0, 0, 0, 0, and then all of a sudden their senior year, it all pops up. So it just depends, okay? But here you'll notice all the programs of study and all the certifications. And yes, these certifications are recognized by TEA, number 1, for CCR, and number 2, and more importantly, by the industry. That's why we have those discussions. Hey, are you still using this certification? So if I'm in the automotive industry, do you still accept the ASE brake entry-level certification? Yes, we do. Okay, then we continue to offer it. If it changes, then we change our curriculum and we adjust and we change that certification. That's why you have those continual talks with the industry. So it's an ongoing process. It's never dead. It's always, you're looking at it, you're myopic, and you're thinking it through, and you want to make sure that the certifications actually mean something. We're not just taking a certification just to have it and then no one accepts it. Does that make sense? Any questions?
The endorsements?
Oh, the endorsements? Oh, on the endorsement field, so there's 5 different endorsements, and within the endorsements, these programs of study fall under those 5. So for example, one of the endorsements that we know of is STEM. Under the STEM endorsement, you'll notice
Business.
engineering falls under STEM endorsement. So all these kids who complete this program of study, coherent sequence, at the end of their transcript, it'll say endorsement STEM. And there's 5.
There's a lot of great offerings. Are we happy with the way we're marketing this? Do people know what we're doing?
Now, it's a conversation we've had in terms of marketing. We need to start marketing these programs in kindergarten or pre-K. And that's a thing that we just haven't done. We know it's in need. So as students go up through elementary, they need to begin with the end in mind and saying, hey, all these wonderful programs, if they don't see it like a banner hanging somewhere, that you can get this here in Edgewood, parents, more importantly, don't know about it. We have a lot of students that go to other charter schools, and then they come back to us their senior or their high school years because, hey, they don't offer this. They find out they don't offer this. So this is, I think, is a huge marketing area. I don't think we do a good job of that at this point. So, but there's a lot of ideas and thoughts that we can do in order to do this, but we need to start young.
Should there be a line item in, with our financials for marketing and really, invest in that? Because there are so many offerings throughout the district.
There is, and if you think about where we started 4 years ago with marketing and what it is now, the adding of people like Samantha Grubbs, of Yvonne, It's just all the picture, the storytelling. I think we've done very well in certain areas. I mean, the proof of that is all the awards they get. But I do think there's areas like this one. Right before you guys came in, Mr. Chubb was actually saying that I'm going to talk to marketing communications about going to the schools and pulling pictures, pulling stories of the kids that are actually in it. A kid's going to believe another kid when they hear the story, the perspective. Here's what I got out of it. That's how you market the program. So we're moving in that
Just
direction.
realize this.
Yeah.
So these pictures here that we have, we tried to get them for the area. That's a perfect picture you could put on one of those vertical things. You come in, come and do culinary arts and explain what it is and give how much are they getting paid. So we can go down the workforce and pull down culinary arts students or students at the stage group and give you a list of what are those job titles, how much are they making. That dollar sign, again, is really important for parents to see, hey, if I stay with this district, wow, they got a really good CTE program.
Yeah.
And I can get this and that. But if we don't, they don't know. They don't see it every day. They don't know.
I was thinking about the aviation, and I don't want to get off topic, but it is related to CTE, is the aviation P-Tech, because P-Tech is a blend of early college with CTE. It's basically what it is, right? And you're earning college credit, you're also learning on-field experience with a certification. Aviation, I don't know who else offers it in the area. I'm new to the area, but if I would want to accentuate a program, hey, I get to earn dual credit hours and go into a field of aviation. Hey, we got the Air Force Base right here.
Boeing's right down.
And I don't know which other districts offer the aviation.
Southwest
only.
Southwest.
So we can just put all sorts of poster boards and maybe we can attract some of those kids who have that interest.
Is San Antonio pretty aggressive with, having these I don't know what you call it, but these recruiting fairs or where they're looking for employees, just the way we try to recruit for teachers?
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
and different industries can go in there and say, we're looking for people. And then here comes Edgewood and unloads buses full of kids applying.
So we've had conversations with Boeing, Dell, a lot of these individual industry partners, and they are chomping at the bit to get this program up and running. They were very instrumental in us moving forward with this. So is there an issue on their side? Yes. Now that we have, once we have the enrollment up, and even these students, we're having them kind of go down the street to Boeing to do visits. And there's also Standard Aero, there's Boeing,
Lockheed.
and there's Lockheed Martin. I mean, there's a lot of business just down the street. We have to tap into that, right? And that's the whole idea of developing the aviation. Mr. Basuto said, you gotta look 10 years down the road. Boeing's gonna be there 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Lockheed Martin, that field, that strip, with all those airplanes parked, that's jobs, that's opportunities for our kids. That's why we went in the direction of aviation. So yes, we need to do better marketing. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If they don't know about it, how can they come?
Right.
We built it, but just because you build it doesn't mean they come. They gotta know about it. And know about it.
And I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come. That's what I was thinking. The other thing is, remember I mentioned practicums? So in some of these courses in particular, in the course sequence in the program of study, by the time they're seniors, the practicum is, now I get to go work on the field. So it does two things. I get to see what it's really like, because it's one thing to learn it in theory. We all know this. When we went to college, we never really learned what the workforce was going to be like, right? We learned the technical sides and all of that, what you want to know about the theory behind it, but the actual, how it looks in the field, we never knew, right? The practicum does that for the kids. So that's one way for them to get their foot in the door and really see, do I really like this field? And if they don't, that's okay, because they got time. But the second thing is that also provides that exposure. When you work in the field and they see you're a good worker and they're like, hey, I like this kid. You know what? I'm going to hire him. And they get hired right out of high school. And in some cases, they even get involved where they help them pay for schooling. I know in El Paso we did a lot of that. That's what this does. That's why these programs are so important, to get the kids exposure on the field, and then they also get exposed by the employer as a potential employee for the future.
To me, like for example, the culinary. Kid goes through 4 years of that. To me, that's like on-the-job training.
And there's some money in it.
They're getting all that on-the-job training, and by the time they graduate, they eliminate all that. How great is that? Yeah.
If I can also add too, another way that we're marketing in-house is that several of these courses related to the certifications are, we have courses at some innovation schools. And so like at the middle school level, several of the elective courses align with several of these programs of study. And we've also had discussions on what other courses can we like push down even to say 6th grade or even to 5th grade just for exposure so that kids will know this is what's coming and they have an opportunity to try out some of these different areas depending on the elementary and middle school zone that they're in. So we started that, 2-3 years ago maybe? Yeah.
And when we built Brentwood STEAM School of Innovation, we had that vision of that.
And the thing with that is the fruits of that labor we will see for another 3 or 4 years, right? Because they're barely in 5th grade, so we won't know what kind of impact until they hit their 8th grade, and then they actually make a choice to say, I want to go in that 5th grade. But you got to kind of start planting those seeds now. Remember, we're thinking 5-6 years ahead. We're not thinking for today. By the way, my apologies. Mr. Chavez put this beautiful presentation together for us. We discussed it, but he did the final touches. These are the endorsements that I was related to. So this is the business and industry endorsement, and these are all the programs of study that fall under this endorsement. Okay, so by the time when these individuals finish and they complete the advanced math, which they all do because it's set up that way with the electives and the advanced CT, because we have a 4x4 here. By 4x4, I mean they get 4 English, 4 math, 4 science, and 4 social studies. They get this endorsement. So all these kiddos will get this endorsement on the transcript.
Let me add one more piece, guys, to connect it to the board. So the board, when you hear us talking about, you heard this a couple, I'd say years ago, you're gonna hear it again from Ms. Salinas. One of our goals, I'm gonna look specific at the culinary arts, is to put some of those programs down in our elementary schools. So remember I talked to you about, like for example, Roosevelt, that just opened up the Dual Language Academy. One of our goals is to maximize our space in our schools. So a lot of what, if you're keeping up with me on social media, I'm spending almost every Wednesday at the schools eating lunch with the kids. And I'm talking to them about where their interests are, what do they want to see in the schools. They're very articulate and able to tell you what they want to see. I'll give you a perfect example. I was at Cisneros this week. I was eating lunch with a young man, he's a 4th grader. And he says, I remember you from when you came to our neighborhood and told us, he said, when I was littler, that you were going to make this a boys' school. And now it's a boys' school. They watch and they listen. And when he said it to me, I was, honestly, inside I was like, wow. So all this, I always wanted to hear that. I need that affirmation too, like they are really listening. I say that to you because at schools like Roosevelt, we want to put in a culinary arts program in places like the library. Kids don't use libraries anymore. Here's the library for them. This is the library. And so we want to maximize spaces like that and maybe put in a smaller but a demonstration facility so the kids can cook when they're in elementary. Those jobs lead up to sous chefs, and when they grow up, that's a very good paying job. In a city like San Antonio, where a hotel, what is it, tourism, travel city, that's perfect. So we do that in our elementaries, and then now they've got 12 years of a cycle, whether it's culinary arts or it's theater arts or whatever it is, that's always been the goal. Pipeline, pipeline, pipeline. So when we come to you for those things, I just want to connect it for you why these things are important and how it all connects for us. That's the goal of the work. Opportunity for every kid. And so just to connect it to the innovation side.
We were in Austin this past conference.
SGS.
So I went to have dinner with a friend of my son that went to Cordon Bleu in Austin. He paid a fortune to go to that school. And we're sitting there eating, and I told him, anyway, so I told him that our district offers that to the kid. He was mad. He graduated from Harlingen and didn't have it.
You know, the amount of money that they pay for like automotive or Cosmo, even the one you mentioned, it's insane.
Yeah, he's a chef now.
Insane amount of money.
And he's in highly demand because he's a pitmaster or something. I don't know what that is, you know. I even don't get it for what I said, you know. So, but he was mad because he said, you don't understand how high demand chefs are.
It's good money.
Hotels are looking for.
Think about the technical colleges that are coming out. I don't know which ones are here. I know I'll go there. We had Those DeVry and
Texas,
yeah, those technical colleges. Have you seen their buildings and facilities? They're beautiful, and then you wonder where do they get the money? So, a kid who, you know, for whatever reason decides to go and says, you know what, college is not for me. Then they realize I got to get a job, and they turn 20, and they realize I better go do something, and they go into, say, automotive. You know how much you're paying for 1 or 2 years to just get some of these certifications? You're talking 25 to 30 grand. And they overcharge them, and of course they go get student loans, and then they get in debt, and all along, we already here.
Yeah. And that's a,
Right, and
Yeah.
it's like that's $30,000 you didn't have to get yourself into had you just enrolled and gone through the program, and you would have walked away with several of these certifications. And even if you didn't get them all, but at least you got some of them.
marketing fodder.
Yeah,
We got so much to offer, it's getting them to understand.
that's what happened to my cousin. It was funny. He was like there in El Paso. There we had Riverside is where we had the automotive program. And he graduated and he realized I gotta go get a job. And then he went and he got his techno and he got in debt for 25 grand. That was about 10 years ago. 25 grand 10 years ago for 2 years. And I told him, Marcos, you're dumb. I was like, you could have done it in high school and you could have got it for free. I didn't know. And
Well, the reality
Yeah.
of the thing is, and I'm a true believer in this,
yeah,
college is not for everybody.
right.
And it happened to my family, my son, but my middle daughter, I was just glad she graduated, man. You know, and my young daughter, you know, she went and got a degree and she's super smart, but then again, college is not for everybody. So that's a reality that we gotta accept. You know, like me, after I got out of school, went in the military, I wish I had gone back to college. But then I got married, had kids, had a mom and a dog. You know,
Yes,
so
sir.
couldn't go back. So this helps the kids that are not. We know for a fact they're gonna go to college. Yes.
And some of these, by the way, are technical. This one is a high-paying job. Are you kidding me? They can't even find enough welders around here. They're making $80 an hour off the gate.
I just paid a welder $600
I know.
for a day and a half worth of work in my house.
Yeah.
We just had a young lady last year from Fine Arts. She got her welding certification.
Yeah.
I bet you anything she's out there.
She's making money. I mean, they are. I mean, when you think about it.
And that makes finding a teacher so difficult.
Yes.
So we may look at how we might compensate them differently, simply because they're, you know, welding, they're underwater welding, they make 150 grand a year, no problem. But come in and teach for a teaching salary, they're like, are you crazy?
Yep.
By the
So
way,
that's the challenge.
so I'm going to move on. It says public service. I want to highlight this one in particular. You're not going to see the shirt better, but I know this because when I first got here, one of the first things that we wanted to make sure is how many certifications are we producing. And this one, I have to give kudos to that high school. We produced 48 to 49 certifications out of 50. There's 50 seniors. Remember, Kim, when we first came, I was all worried about the CCR indicators and let's make sure we're getting. And within 1 month, we were able to test these kiddos, and 48 or 49 out of 50 passed it. So they're all walking. All those seniors that graduated that were in this program have a certification on the non-commissioned security offers level 2. So they can use that already to start working.
We have a teacher, she's from Mexico, and she's a dentist. And this past year, she had registered for the registered dental assistant, cold, took the test, all of them passed. That was 9 or 8 or 9 of them. And like, so this is like a gold mine, right? A gold mine. So we can funnel more kiddos in there, so.
And remember what I mentioned here, we have about 5 or 6 of our kiddos that finished this program last year that are now here working with us as aides. And so that's another pipeline to grow. This one's under the public service, and then there's the STEM.
Could you go back one?
Yes, sir?
You see that picture in the bottom right-hand corner? That's a law enforcement. Those 2 teachers. on
Look at
left
all the
and right
certs.
side. Yeah, all those certs. This is our,
good.
our education teacher, and that's our health science kiddos working in a very, very advanced laboratory that they have at Memorial.
So there's the STEM. Engineering, solid works. Now, this is the current group, okay? As of right now, today, these are the current seniors. And then moving on, you'll notice freshmen the current freshmen, obviously they're zero. Why? Because they're just barely entering into the program. They've only been in the program for 6 weeks. So you're going to see very few industry certifications, and then you'll start building them up. This number will explode at the end of this year because remember I told you after they complete, some of these certifications require you to finish the 4 courses, then you can challenge the certification. For example, the law enforcement, cosmetology. You cannot even challenge the test until you turn 18. So you'll notice that. So we monitor that to see some you can challenge after you take 1 or 2 courses, and if you don't pass, you can always challenge it again the following year.
What do we have? 26-0, and then 25-15, 44, then 25 again.
Oh. This should be 23. 23. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
23.
Sorry, I apologize for that.
Yeah. 6543.
Yes, this is a class of 23, which is our current
Current
seniors.
class.
Yes. Good catch. Sorry for taking time, but any questions?
Oh,
Good information? Okay.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
That makes our job easy.
Yeah, and that was the whole idea of kind of getting this together. We hope that we've kind of shed some light on these very important programs. I've got a lot of takeaways that I wrote down from questions that you had. I know my colleagues are doing the same also. So we went over our strategies, looked at attendance and enrollment, looked at advanced academics, reviewed career and technology, and now what are our next steps? Well, here's October, for you all will be with our business and operations people. We will see you November 11th with leadership. And that's when we come back on a Friday. I think it might be on a Friday, I think. And then finally, questions? Yes, sir.
Early on, we're talking about, where we are with, I guess, reaching, where the schools are reaching a B.
Yes, sir.
And what that track looks like.
Yes.
Are there any incentives, have y'all thought about any incentives for a school to get there? Just so it's sort of a race and everybody's out there, wanting a piece of that pie, whatever that pie might look like. And it can be fun stuff for the kids. It can be money, just stuff that gets everybody focused on learning and growing.
Actually, we are. So I'm going to take you back to a couple of things. Can you go back to pop up? There you go, right there. So I'll answer that question directly and then connect it. Previous years, you know how we've been giving everybody a, I can't say Christmas, a winter bonus. It was $250 or $300. So one of the conversations Mira and I were having, in fact we were having it yesterday, is how do we not just give that money up to everybody and say if you're a staff member at such and such campus, everyone gets the basic 100 for the holiday, but we're going to give a little more to the schools that are a B or a C and sort of walk into that. I've been trying to inch them in. You and I had this conversation 2 years ago about moving them into more performance-based pay. So we've done a few things. Let me connect it for you. It's not up here, but I'm saying it so they'll bring it next time. TIA, the teacher incentive allotment that we applied for. So that's an opportunity for teachers that make their outcomes and find their outcomes to make a whole lot more money, close to about $100,000 a year in theory. They can make up to $100,000. So those are moves that we're making to move towards performance pay. And you have to do that very tactfully because you're changing culture. It's not a culture that our industry does. It's not looked on very positively, but that doesn't mean we're not going to do it. And so those are small steps we're going to take in that direction. Keep promoting TIA so we can attract teachers from other districts that are already either nationally certified or they have already outcomes, whether it's in endorsements or AP exams, dual credit exams. And we, in our measure, I think wrote it down to even, I think, what is it, Head Start and Pre-K, they all qualify for some of this, right?
Yes.
So everybody has an outcome that they are expected to reach, and if you reach it, you get a monetary compensation for it. And the state does usually support that work because the state wants us to move in that direction anyways. So a lot of what we're doing, think about all of what you've approved with these operating partners. We have additional opportunities to bring folks like, let's think about Stafford. We have a theater teacher there. We have additional units that we are not able to stand up without using our own money, but through the operating partner, we're able to bring additional support. So all that ensures that we move towards performance-based pay. That's where we're going with it. And to connect it for you guys, so he said next month you're gonna hear from business and operations. So today you heard about all the endorsements, all the different areas that you heard about. And I sort of nudged into, we need to increase dual credit stipend, right? So it helps that program. Now what you're gonna hear next month is how does the business office support all that work? Because when you have an endorsement program or a CTE program, it isn't just as simple as, oh, we want to teach automotive tech. Well, we had to build an automotive building at JFK. So we want you to understand the connection between when something's asked for, here's what it costs. And not just in areas of this type of performance, but even just our natural upkeep of our schools. I think I've discussed with the board before. We have a lot of work that still needs to be done at our schools and why we're doing it. We want to connect the work in the classroom to the business side of things and why it has to happen this way. So that's what you're going to hear at next month's meeting. So these are all going to keep connecting very nicely. And I want to thank this group for the work they're doing with this, because this was our first meeting, and we've all served in different districts. This is a new way of responding to the board and making sure that we are, again, the $96 million we're given, that we make sure that we're performing with it, and that you don't have to ask for questions. We should be bringing you the outcomes of the district, so you don't have to ask. That was the goal of today, the last goal. I don't know what else you believe in.
Well, and as you mentioned, the TIA, I have a very good friend of mine who recently got a $20,000 bonus because doing well, right? Well, in private industry, like the welding areas, they're getting paid a lot of money. So this is a really good opportunity for us to capitalize on this program. So, any other questions? Well, we hope that we did do the goal, and that is to give you information on performance, to go deeper into the areas that we have. I'd like to thank my colleagues here today for presenting and say a big thank you.
Outstanding work. I'm amazed, yeah.
That's where it's going.
Thank you.
Is that thing? Let me turn that on.
Now we got to move it.
Not you.